Got a couple of announcements here at Campus Events is Planning. Thursday at noon, 12 noon at A-Level Ackerman, Jack Mack and the Heart Attack. Want to see everybody there at that one. We've got also Thursday at noon, we've got Judy Maisel, author of the Beverly Hills Diet, here. Okay, and then Thursday and Friday night, 7 and 9:30, Star Trek 1 and 2. Right? And then midnight on Friday, we've got a showing of Arthur. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to another program of the Associated Students of UCLA. Tonight, we are pleased to present one of Hollywood's most glamorous young actresses. Her work as Jennifer Pace Phillips on Search for Tomorrow seemed to be only a warm-up for her role as Constance Weldon Carlyle in Flamingo Road. She has graced the covers of People, Us, Women's Day, Los Angeles, Penthouse, and We magazines. But wait, she did not take off her clothes for the latter, and she's the only one who could do that. And she has modeled for Bizarre and Glamour. A little later on, you'll be seeing her in her starring motion picture debut, The Seduction. Maybe you didn't know that, but before she was doing things like being Faye Dunaway's double for Bonnie and Clyde and doing movies like Bullet for Pretty Boy with Fabian back in Texas. Would you please give a very warm UCLA welcome to a lady of talent, a lady of beauty, Morgan Fairchild.
Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, good. You can't see me? I'm more discreet tonight than in the film you're about to see. So. Let's see, they told me there'd be some questions or something. Does anyone have any questions? Anybody here in the drama department? Keep it clean. Hi.
Good evening, Ms. Fairchild. I'd like to inquire, why was your series on TV, Flamingo Road, dropped?
I'm sorry, would you say when or why?
Why?
Well, I haven't the foggiest.
Oh.
I'm not privy to network politics, so sometimes you're not quite sure yourself. I know that we'd already been informed it was picked up for next year, and the company was proceeding accordingly, and then suddenly at the very last minute, literally the day they announced, they suddenly dropped it from the schedule. And you never know why.
Uh-huh. As long as it'll be picked up next season?
No, it won't be. It's gone. It croaked.
You mean forever, or they just dropped the series?
They did. Yes, they did.
Oh, gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Wait. Okay, so what will you be doing in the near future? Are you working on another movie?
I'm not working on a film right now. I just got back from Vancouver yesterday doing a thing for Showtime, which is a spoof of soap operas. That I was up there with a lot of people from some of the daytime soaps. You had sort of a prerequisite of doing the spoof was that you had to have done daytime at one time or another. So Tony Geary was up there, and Jed Allen and Elizabeth Allen from different soaps and everything. And it went very well. We're very happy. It'll be on Showtime later this year.
Oh, great.
And then I'm going to New York tomorrow, and I think I'll be doing an off-Broadway play next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you. Thanks. Yeah.
I was curious as to whether or not you enjoy Shakespeare.
I have always enjoyed Shakespeare. I've never had the opportunity to play Shakespeare. I have done Moliere and Ibsen. So, I enjoy some of the classics. But unfortunately, what you learn a lot of times when you hit the real world is that there's not a lot of money to be made in Shakespeare in this country. So to pay the rent, you usually have to sort of do something else, too.
Well, what I was wondering is there's an absolutely divine production of Macbeth on right now. And I was wondering if I might persuade you to go with me. Now, I realize that you probably think I'm putting myself out, and you might want to say no, but seriously, it's not that big of a problem. I think you're a wonderful actress, a charming lady, and I feel it my obligation as a male.
I think that your sense of duty is impressive. However, you probably have to clear that with my boyfriend who's standing in the back of the auditorium.
Okay, well, we'll work something out. Thank you.
He likes Macbeth, too. Hi.
Hi. Having worked on both daytime soap operas and evening soap operas, what are the differences that you see between the two, and which do you like better?
Well, we were having a big discussion on this on the plane coming back from Vancouver yesterday. When I did daytime, most of the shows were a half hour. This was back in the 70s when most of you were probably still in junior high school or something. And it was, most of them had not gone to an hour yet. Now, I understand that it's much tougher doing the hour shows. Doing daytime back then was more of a 9-to-5 job. Now they have almost as rough a schedule as doing nighttime, which means like 5 o'clock in the morning calls and working until 8 or 9 or 10 at night. The big difference, I think, in the programming itself is that daytime tends to deal with a little more realistic problems, a little more sort of suburban American problems, as opposed to nighttime, which deals usually with sort of bigger-than-life, rich, finagling kind of things. It's more of a bigger-than-life things. The daytime soaps try to stay a little more realistic.
Which do you like better, though?
I like doing nighttime better. I enjoyed doing daytime when I was doing it, and it's certainly a great training ground if you want to be an actor. I started in the business when I was 10 years old, and I'd spent my whole adolescence on the stage. So for me, it was the first time I'd been in front of a camera, and I learned a lot about camera technique on daytime. I just didn't want to do it forever. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you think your sex symbol image is going to interfere with any plans you have as a serious actress in the future? You know.
Well, I don't really think of myself as a sex symbol, so that's always kind of a question that's hard for me to answer. I like to think of myself as just a lady that is sexy. But I think every lady in the room probably considers herself sexy, and every man also. I think that's just sort of a natural human prerogative. But also, you just don't like to have other qualities in you overlooked because you happen to look nice or something, you know? Just the same as you don't want to have qualities overlooked if you don't look good. If you're plain or if you're homely, you like to have people look at your soul. The same as if you're sort of stuck up there with an image. You'd like people to look beyond the facade, give you a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
hi.
I was just wondering, considering the notoriety you've achieved and the success you've attained through In Search for Tomorrow and Flamingo Road and
Am
all...
I notorious? I didn't know that.
Okay. And the other, whatever other acting experiences you've had, and how much you admire throughout the United States, I have to ask you the obvious question: would you mind marrying me? We could probably talk something over with. No, seriously.
There's a chaplain on campus, right?
Seriously, I think you're a good actress, and just keep up the good work. And I appreciate your performance. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay? But you can let me know just later, all right? Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you think you're typecast the same roles all the time? I mean, you know how there's a certain roles you usually play, and
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
I was just wondering, do you think you're typecast for similar roles all the time?
Yes, and it's so boring.
Do you hate that? I mean, can you do anything about it? Can you say something? Or, no?
Well, unfortunately in Hollywood, once they found that they can make money on you doing one thing, they're very loath to change and let you do anything else. So consequently, I get offered a lot of junk, which I've also been turning down a lot the last year. of sexy things or playing bitch things, especially very one-dimensional bitches. I love playing bitches, and it's fun. If they'd offer me Jezebel, you know, in the 30s, I would have loved to have been Betty Davis. But unfortunately, they don't write really good parts for bitchy ladies anymore. In fact, they write very few good parts for women at all. I don't know if too many of you have noticed, but there were several films out this year that had absolutely no women in them at all. Parts for women in this town have become scarcer and scarcer. And so it becomes very difficult, especially if they've decided that this is a niche that you fit. When I first came out here, my first job was playing a blind ex-Peace Corps worker with no makeup and my hair in a ponytail and a sweatshirt and blue jeans. And I was thinking, oh, great, they're going to let me act out here. Everybody said Hollywood was so rotten and it's not bad at all. And, of course, that was the last one of those I ever got to do. So you just get tired of everything you go in on, being sort of the glitzy bitch. You'd like to do something else if they would let you. There have been a lot of times when I've begged to read for another part. On Flamingo Road, I begged them to let me read for Lane Ballou, and they wouldn't. They insisted they wanted a brunette, so I offered to come in a wig, but they wouldn't let me do it. Constance was mine for the taking, but they wouldn't even let me read for the other one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Recently, I caught you on a cable talk show, and I was wondering, you were talking about an experience you had in New York where you were confronted by two gentlemen. And I was noticing how well you handle yourself with these questions. I was wondering how exactly you got through that. I missed it. It's like, I caught the end of it, and I was dying to know what happened.
Oh, was I being indiscreet again?
Yeah.
Oh, well, what happened is I had just moved up to New York, and my sister was going to Juilliard at the time, and I was sort of fresh from Texas. I was about 20, and I was walking down the street in broad daylight, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and this very tall gentleman came up on one side of me and started talking to me. Well, I knew that you were not supposed to talk to men on the street in New York City, so I'm blithely going my own way, you know, my little nose in the air saying, oh, I'm not going to talk to him. So a couple of seconds later, another very tall gentleman came up on the other side of me, and they proceeded to throw me into a cab and make off with me. Meanwhile, the people at a bus stop standing there, I'm saying, help, 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 and everybody's sort of giggling and laughing and thinking it's very funny. I did not think it was funny. The two gentlemen then proceeded to tell me all kinds of strange things they were going to do to my body as we drove around in this cab with a Puerto Rican cab driver who had the plate glass window there, was paying no attention, speaking no English. So basically you sort of talk your way out of it. I tend to be such a wise ass. Every time they'd tell me something they were going to do, I'd make a wisecrack. And so finally one of them turned to the other one and said, you know, she ain't bad. She's funny. Why don't we let her go? And they did. I went back to the apartment and didn't come out for 4 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Can I ask you some personal questions? Not real personal or anything.
How personal?
Like, how old are you?
Pretty personal. I'm 32.
Should have said, how young are you? Excuse me. You're really?
32, yeah. How old are you?
How old am I? 18. How about it? And would you mind...
Prove it.
Thanks. Would you mind telling me your measurements? It's nothing big or anything. I mean...
Pardon me?
You know, I mean, what are numbers?
Exactly, and with that attitude, I'm sure you'll understand why I don't think it would be very appropriate.
Okay, being a successful, beautiful actress, in this movie that's going to be coming up, it's a story about a guy who I guess is obsessed with you or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Has that ever happened to you in real life? I mean, being an obsessive person.
No, you guys look pretty straight, you know. No, you do attract a lot of weirdos. Unfortunately. This crowd looks pretty clean to me. But it's not always that way. There have been a few instances where it's been pretty scary, where, you know, it's real sort of John Hinckley type characters, and they track you, and they save up their money. What you have to understand is that if you are a normal person walking down the street, you can pass 50 people on a sidewalk and never know that they're crazy. But if you're a recognizable face, something lights up in their heads, and they follow you, and you find out they're crazy. And unfortunately, I mean, sometimes they go to really exorbitant lengths to try to find you. I mean, they'll hitchhike clear across the country to try to reach you. And it sometimes gets very scary. So, who's here tonight?
You go ahead. You can just go first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't miss you.
I was wondering, with this Saturday's football game coming up, are you a Trojan fan or a Bruin fan?
Not having gone to either school, I try to maintain a distance from this. I have to say that some of my people at my PR company are very pro one or the other, so I listen to them extol all the virtues of one or the other school and just sort of nod my head a lot. I don't like to see them come to blows, you know.
Thank you.
No, I'll be in New York. I have to go to New York tomorrow morning.
Oh.
Nobody invited me.
Okay. Okay. Recently, you did a television movie with Eric Estrada.
Uh-huh.
You remember that movie? Okay. Were you instructed in any way not to steal the show from Eric Estrada? Because I sort of got that impression.
From what?
Well, throughout the whole show, personally, I don't think Eric Estrada is that hot. And I think you are, so. Apparently, Eric Estrada was in this Rocky image type thing, but he didn't seem to carry his role very strongly. You did, and it seems that the director would notice this immediately. So was there anything done in the background, maybe to taper down the makeup or something like that?
Well, how do I say this discreetly? First of all, you have to realize that I was working on an Eric Estrada production, which should give you a tip-off right away that the movie is geared for Eric Estrada, which, of course, is what NBC was buying. So the whole script was tailored for Eric, which, of course, he was putting up the money, and it's his production company, so that's the way he wanted it. And, you know, you come in and you do the best you can with what you have there to do it with, which is sometimes better than others.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Sorry. Could you briefly inform us of your educational background regarding film?
I'm sorry, can I do what?
Could you briefly inform us of your educational background regarding film work? That's number one. Also, could you tell us what you think, what type of education is actually, should I say, conducive to getting a job in Hollywood today, and what do you think are probably the most prevailing indicators of a person's ability? Okay, let me. Okay,
can we take those one at a time?
I see we have a college crowd here today. Okay, look. Could you tell us really what are?
Could I just ask? Are you a film student?
No, I'm not.
I'm just curious. You sound like you know something about it. So I'm just
no, not really.
You don't seem to be reading notes on your hands.
I have it written right here. You know, I had to write it. I can't memorize it and look at you at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember the first two questions I asked you?
I'm actually deceptively bright, yes. I think your first one goes back to what was my educational background in film. Basically, I took some drama lessons when I was about 10 years old, and I've never taken one since. Drama classes are difficult for me because I tend to be very shy, And there'll always be some Robin Williams type kid in the class that wants to get up and do things, and I'll always let him and just sit there and watch and laugh, but I didn't really get much out of it. And so I myself have never really attended drama classes. Now, my sister has a BA from Juilliard, where she got everything from Alexander technique to Grotowski technique, where they did everything from House of Blue Leaves to, Henry IV. So who can say which is better? I mean, she certainly has much more classical training than I do.
So you've never been to a film school or anything formal like that. You broke into acting more or less in what way?
I started off doing children's theater. I then started doing community theater, graduated into dinner theater, summer stock, and repertory. Toured all over the country. By the time I was about 18 or 19, I went professional at 17. And then did the soap opera in New York for 3.5 years, and then I've been out here for about 5 years doing this out here. So basically, while my sister was going to Juilliard, I was sort of going to the School of Hard Knocks. I just kept having to get a job. I got married when I was 17, and so I had to help support a family. So I didn't have the luxury of being able to go to school. I sort of needed the job.
Do you think
learn real quick when you need the job.
Do you think film schools today are really important in a person's ability to get success in the real world of Hollywood?
That's a hard answer, a hard question to answer. It's difficult to say. I know that a lot of times there are people coming out of some of these film schools with master's degrees who really don't know how to fit into the real world of filmmaking, and they find it very difficult to get a job. On the other hand, sometimes you can get wonderful experiences at film schools and really come out ahead. It sort of depends on the person and what you do with it. I think that there is nothing like real experience for getting into the film world. And anybody who was interested in going into film, I'd say on your summer or any hiatus or vacation you have, to be working in some form of theater or film is the best possible thing to do. Because when you go in to apply for a job, they'd 10 times rather see that you've worked on a real set than that you have a degree in film. Yes.
What do you... Okay. Excuse me. Gotta... What do you think would be what advice would you give to somebody that was trying to do something in film today? What do you say would you say are the things that will land them will gain them recognition in Hollywood if they haven't already produced Star Wars or something like that?
If they haven't what with Star Wars?
What I'm saying, what would you say? We have a lively crowd here tonight. Let's hear your applause. Thank you. Okay, that's enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering who your ideal leading man is.
My ideal leading man. Fifth row. Let's see. I don't know. There are a lot of people I'd like to work with. I've worked with some people that I suppose a lot of ladies in this country would consider an ideal leading man. I've done 2 shows with Tom Selleck. But I would rather work with David Warner or Alan Bates. They're some of my big favorites. Tony Hopkins is a big favorite of mine.
Does your husband get jealous of you in these roles with these men?
Well, I'm not married. My boyfriend takes a very good attitude on that. We met what... Fortunately, he's better looking than just about any leading man I've had in Hollywood, so I don't think he feels too threatened. And he's over in the corner. But also... But also... hi. Sure. But also, we met when he was doing some photography work on Flamingo Road. He's a camera operator. And so we met in a film circumstance, and he's had to photograph me playing love scenes with other leading men, and he understands that it's all just, it's just acting.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Morgan. I'm a graduate student in theater arts here, and so I've studied theater for about 7 years, and I'm interested in finding that what was your favorite role on stage that you considered as an impetus to your wanting to continue professionally as an actress, and do you miss the theater? Have you been performing in theaters since you've been working with television and film recently?
No, I haven't had a chance. I haven't been on a stage in about 8 years as far as legit goes. I mean, not counting things that you do in front of a live audience like the thing I just did this weekend or some of the sitcoms, which you do in front of a live audience, but it's just still not the same.
So do you miss that connection with
Well, that's
the
why I'm
audience?
going back to New York now to do
work on
this
the stage.
play. I'm hoping I go to New York tomorrow to talk to them about it, and it looks pretty good. So I'm very excited about that because you do miss it. You miss the feedback that you get from doing it in front of a live audience. There's something about being in the theater, especially when you've grown up as many years as I have. The only thing is I hate the thought of going back to New York in the snow. I wish it were the spring.
Do you remember, I come from the East too, so I identify with that. Do you remember your favorite role on the stage? Do you have one?
Oh, God, I can't think of anything that I really adored. I've always wanted to play Riff in West Side Story. I don't think anybody's ever going to let me play it.
Sounds great. Also, I have one other short anecdote. Before I moved out here to Los Angeles about 3 months ago, my sister, who's 5 years younger than me, adores you, and we all sit around and watch Flamingo Road every week.
You let a 5-year-old watch that show?
No, she's 20. She's 5 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
I'm 25. I'm 25. And so it was the perennial question. She said, jokingly, she said, Jeff, if you should go to Los Angeles and see Morgan Fairchild, would you get her autograph for me? So I want to ask you, would you sign her autograph for me?
I bet I would.
Would you do it? Would you?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, boo. Let's see, does anybody else have anything?
I'm just wondering, what is the highest educational degree you've received?
I'm sorry, what is the what?
What is the highest educational degree you've received?
I have no degree in anything. I take what appeals to me.
Thank you.
I have to say I took anthropology in night school here a couple of years ago, though, and I enjoyed it a lot. And if any of you see Dr. Robert Biles in the next week or so, say hi for me. It's the hardest day I've ever worked for. It's hard to shoot a series 17 hours a day and do a midterm at the same time, let me tell you. Okay. Oh, hi.
Hi. It seems like somewhere I saw you on a talk show and you said your real name wasn't Morgan Fairchild, right?
How did you guess?
I just wondered how you chose that name.
I chose that name because when I was growing up in Dallas, Texas, I was interested in theater, and everybody else was interested in football and drill team and cheerleaders, and everybody thought I was a weirdo. And so every afternoon when they were going to drill team practice, I would be going to theater. And most of my friends were older, and nobody seemed to understand what I wanted to do with my life, that I had a vision of something I wanted to do. And so one day one of my girlfriends called me up and said, "You've got to come see this movie." Because I had a tendency to sort of live in my fantasies of what I was going to be tomorrow as opposed to what was going on today. And I went to see a movie called Morgan, A Suitable Case for Treatment, starring David Warner and Vanessa Redgrave, for which she got her first Academy Award nomination. It's a little black and white movie, came out in '66, and it's about a man who has gorilla fantasies. And I identified with it a lot. So I named myself after that. When I was getting a divorce later, I just decided I'd change my name to something I liked, and I picked that.
What was your real name?
Patsy.
Patsy.
Which I loathe. So don't call me that. I always hate to tell people because then they start calling you that, and that's why I changed it.
Patsy, can I ask you a question? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give yourself?
Oh, people don't. Pardon me? People don't do that anymore, do they?
I don't know. We should revive it.
I just never believed in rating people by what they look like.
How about your soul? What would you give that?
I think inside I'm a pretty nice person, and I would give myself a pretty good rating. But as far as this fad that went on a couple of years ago of rating people by, you know, how many centimeters wide their nose is, or how many inches long their hair is, or what size their bust is, I think it's pretty silly. I don't think anybody should have to be judged like that.
I think so too.
Thank you. Not very often. Once in a while. I buy out Neiman's, though.
Hi again.
Hi.
I'd like to ask you a question. Where do you plan to see yourself 10 years from now, professionally as well as in your personal life? In 10 years.
In 10 years, I would hope that I would have been able to do a couple of things on the legitimate stage that I'm proud of, and hopefully a few movies, which I include TV movies in those too, because I think there's some very fine work being done in all areas of television now as far as miniseries and TV movies go. But something good. I would like to do a few things that are good that I can be proud of in 10 years. And also I'd like to be married and have a couple of kids. And white Christmases and all that kind of stuff. I'm real schmaltzy.
I agree.
It's terrible. It doesn't go with the image, but it's the way I am.
Thank you. I have another quick question. Who would you like to work with professionally? Who do you look up to? Like another film star?
Another film star? Do you mean men or women or both?
Men or women. And why or why not?
Well, I said a while ago I would love to work with Alan Bates. I would love to work with David Warner. I would love to work with Anthony Hopkins, John Hurt. I admire a lot. Women, I like Anne Margaret a lot. I think she's a very fine actress and a very sweet lady. And I would love to do some kind of project with her.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Have you ever gone back or felt like going back to your hometown and finding all those people who said you never make it in Hollywood and telling them to kiss off?
Unfortunately, most of them never said it to my face. What I love, though, is that I did go back for my 10th anniversary high school reunion. And I love the fact that at that time all the guys were coming up saying, "Oh, God, we drove in all the way from El Paso because my wife wouldn't believe I went to high school with you, and I had such a big crush on you." And I'm saying, this guy wouldn't even say hello to me in the hall when I was in high school. So, you know, I mean, if people start seeing you through the guise of the same image that the public is seeing you through. I think that's one of the hardest things to discover, is that people you've known for 15 years suddenly start seeing you through the public image instead of the same person they've known. Sometimes people's attitudes towards you change, even when yours don't.
And I'm sure there were probably people that you really didn't know that well that all of a sudden popped out of the woodwork.
You wouldn't believe how many high school marriages I've discovered. It's just, it's been really strange finding out that I dated every single guy in the high school, and I was everybody's best friend, and I swam in everybody's pool, and, you know, it's funny. I don't know why people do that, but it's funny. It's sort of strange. I wish they'd been that friendly then. I could have used it. I was lonely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Over here.
Oh. Hi.
Hi. You're typecast in a lot of bitchy roles, but because of that, do you ever find that people actually think you're like that? Do people ever judge you as being a bitch?
All the time.
What a drag.
The time. Pardon me?
What a drag.
It gets very boring. You usually spend the first half hour with new acquaintances, with them waiting for you to do something dreadful. It takes a while for them to suddenly realize that you're not going to be that way. Or with interviewers, it's always amazing. After interviews, they'll come over and say, "My God, you're so nice. I had no idea you were going to be so nice." And you always feel like, God, what did they expect? But I guess people see you different than you see yourself.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have two questions. First one's serious and personal. I just graduated from medical school last year, and I was wondering if you could tell me. I was wondering if you could tell me how celebrities like yourself went about choosing a physician.
When I moved out from New York, I took some references from my New York doctors as to who to go to, and they've proved to be very reliable. What kind of physician are you going to be?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. Is that what everybody else does?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is that what everybody else does?
Which?
I mean, is it just by word of mouth?
A lot of it's by word of mouth, sure. In a town this small, everybody, in the circles that I know, in Hollywood, I mean, a lot of people tend to go to the same doctors. A lot of people go to the same dermatologist. A lot of us go to the same OB. Everybody goes to the same people.
I see. So. Secondly, how'd you like Vancouver?
Vancouver? Oh, it was terrific. I had a great time.
Oh, good.
Everybody's very sweet. I was up there about a year ago, too, but I never get to see anything of it except the studio.
That's where I live.
But it's cold. It's really nice, and the leaves are all orange.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm curious, and this is a serious question. How much is sex really related in a young actress getting a job for a part? We hear a lot of things about it, and I'm just curious, because you know what goes on. And does it have a large effect? Or?
By sex, do you mean sexy looking? I'm assuming
no,
you mean sleeping with someone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never done it for a part, so.
And you don't know anything about here?
I'll tell you, I think that a lot of young girls sometimes when they come to this town are sort of told that you have to do that and are stupid enough to fall for it. If you're good, you'll work. And sleeping with people is never going to be the best thing to do. Number one, there's too much money at stake. Nobody will give you a part that's really worth anything because you slept with them. And there's too much money at stake in films these days. They'll give it to somebody good. They may give you a bit walk-on or an extra or something like that, but you won't get a part as an actor where you get to act.
So a person wouldn't really start off, that wouldn't be a good way for them to...
That's not a good way because, no. If you have a girlfriend that's getting into that, no. I would tell her no because what happens also is then she gets a reputation and then no one takes her seriously as an actor, which is, of course, I assume what she would like.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi there.
Hi.
I had an opportunity to talk to Mark Harmon this summer, and I got a long conversation with him. And I know you guys have worked together for a long time. I'm wondering if you still like working with him, and how'd you like working with him? Like on Dream Merchants and Flamingo Road and stuff like that?
Oh, well, gee, Mark and I have worked together for so long now. It's just nice to get some other leading men. You know, you get kind of tired of the same people all the time.
I was going to say. But you still have a good relationship with him, and you still like working with him?
Oh, yeah. If something came up again, I'm sure we'd work together again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we should watch the movie. Okay. Good night.